Good morning. This is People Are Talking. I am Linda Harris. Richard Scher is not here this morning. He is, as we speak, in the air on the way to California. I'm sure he has his dark glasses on, and he's going to probably be signing autographs the minute he gets off the plane. Although actually what his job is this weekend is doing some interviews for us here on People Are Talking. Among them, Lucille Ball. Now just try to imagine Richard Scher and Lucille Ball. Can you stand it? I can't wait until he comes back. He promises that he's going to give me a call on Monday morning, so we'll see what happens and make sure he's not too busy to do that. We are going to have an exciting show this morning. I cannot imagine once we get started that you are not going to have some feelings about this one. Being a parent is tough no matter how you slice it. A lot of people are doing it alone, but there are still some whole families in the sense that we are accustomed to them. More and more, however, there are some unusual combinations of people who are raising children, and this morning you are going to meet a family. Let me introduce you first to Joy Schulenberg. Next to her, Jeff Worcester and Bert Laumont. Now, they are parents of 5-year-old Veronica. They are also homosexuals. And this morning, we are going to find out how this unusual family group works together. There you see them with Veronica. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Linda.
Nice to have you with us. Let's start first with you, Joy, and when you first knew that you were gay and what your thoughts were about what kind of life you thought you'd live.
Well, I guess it's always hard to pinpoint these things. You know, it's one of those, you know, you're different. I guess around the age of 14 or 15, is when I really knew. And at that point, I assumed I'd be a fairly solitary person or a person with, you know, a lesbian partner. And I did not, in no way was the concept of the possibility of having a family, even though it was appealing. It just wasn't part of my future picture for myself because I didn't have any role models.
I would guess that you were 14 when, maybe in the early 70s?
Late 60s.
Late 60s, all right. So you were having these feelings at a time that a lot was being talked about in society. There were probably more women coming out than at any time since or before. Were you getting any support?
Oh, definitely. I mean, for example, Jeff and I have known each other since we were teenagers, and I was one of the very fortunate people who had a peer group, a gay and lesbian peer group in high school. So I always did have peer support, and I didn't go through any traumas that way of feeling I was the only one. However, I still did. The only role model I ever had in terms of being a parent or a mother and a lesbian was fairly negative because this person had, you know, some emotional problems themselves that had nothing to do with her being a parent. But I didn't really have any positive role models.
How about your family? I mean, were they...
My family, we're all very fortunate, but my family's always been very supportive. My mother's key response when she found out was, well, at least I don't have to worry about you coming home pregnant before, you know, before you're grown.
Oh, that's kind of an unusual perspective. So they were not aghast in the sense that...
No. I was fortunate enough to have parents who said, well, I wouldn't do it, and I don't necessarily understand, but... You know, it is your life, and if you behave yourself with integrity, that's what's important, not who you sleep with.
Jeff, was it different for you as a man during the same period? You two were friends, as Joyce said, when you were
not a
in
lot.
high school.
I mean, I came out about the time I was 14 too. Whenever I realized what it was, I thought I invented homosexuality, and I was very thrilled to find out there was other people in the world like this. But Joy and I had been close friends, and suddenly half of the friends I knew kind of all came out at the same time, and we had a very good supportive peer group.
So you almost drifted together by some sort of instinct rather than by...
Before any of us knew clearly, consciously, that we were gay.
Now, Bert, you came into this group, of course, a little bit later. I mean, did you meet these two as friends? I mean, were they friends of each other?
I met Jeffrey when I was 18. He had moved down to my hometown. They lived in Chicago, and I lived in downstate Illinois. And he was lovers with my best friend, and that's how I happened to meet Jeff. And then I met Joy through Jeff. And then I moved to San Francisco, and then they all followed suit.
At what point did you get together? Because now, before you decided that you wanted to have a child, you had formed a living relationship.
Right.
Joy?
Right. Well, we were living together as roommates. We'd all, in various combinations for, you know, economic and friendship reasons, had lived together over the years. And when we all moved to San Francisco in '79, I guess it was, we found that it was much more economical to share a flat. So it evolved out of that very tight friendship of, 10, 11 years duration. And really
who
came
was
about.
together first? You lived with...
It's hard to say.
She lived by herself, and Jeff and I were roommates. And then we were spending lots and lots of time together, going to clubs and just hanging out. And we decided that it would be, like Joy said, more economical to move in together, and so that is what we did.
Did that inhibit the two of you as lovers? I mean,
We weren't lovers
were not
yet.
lovers
No,
at that
we
it
were
also
just
came
best
about
friends.
very much simultaneously. I mean, within maybe a matter of weeks.
How?
There
you all are
these
together.
things come about. The interpersonal dynamics. It's like people suddenly wake up and realize the potential you have in relationships for either being lovers or for being parents or for working together and on something creative. It was just the dynamics. We were mature enough at that point, and I think ready to explore. We were stable and mature in certain areas, not in all areas, but in enough that we were ready to explore something that up till then had seemed way beyond us, that's something you do when you grew up, and I think we grew up. About
Now,
that
were you
point.
involved with anyone when you made this family relationship? What were you up to?
Oh, I was busy being, a single working woman, basically. I wasn't heavily involved with anybody. I mean, there were some, acquaintances, possibilities, but this took precedence.
But now, didn't you think, I mean, the first thing that I would think if I were interested ultimately in a one-to-one relationship, I move in with two guys. It doesn't limit what you can do socially.
Not necessarily, because of I think part of it is San Francisco's environment, and part of it is simply we had our own space. We had this enormous flat, so it wasn't like we were breathing down one another's necks all the time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We all had doors to shut. We all had our own rooms, so we could get away from each other. If we
All right, so you had enough
to-
space and
yeah,
enough
right.
privacy, so life was fairly normal. How did you divide up household duties and things like that? Were there any conflicts? I mean, you were creating a family into which later this child was to come. What kind of family was it?
I think at that point it was friends. We were very much busy being creative single people, that, we were very social and very busy, and, for example, our housekeeping was fairly chaotic depending on who wanted to do what when. It wasn't until we decided to have the child that we really settled down and allocated responsibilities in a clear-cut way.
But now, was it before you decided to have the child that Jeff and Bert became lovers?
Shortly before.
Shortly before. Did you ever feel, like odd person out in that relationship? Here are these two people that you live with falling in love, and you are not falling in love with either of them.
Oh, I certainly, and to some extent I still do envy their emotional bond, their, the fulfillment that they get out of that. That's the one part of my life that isn't really that fulfilled. However, my life's so busy that it's a small part. Yet, there are times I look at it and go, boy, I'd love to have what they have.
Oh, I think a lot of people look at any relationship between two people and have that, so I think our audience can certainly identify with that part of it. All right, now at this point, just to bring you up to date, if you are feeling a little bit confused, we have three people living together, two men in a lover relationship and a gay woman. When we come back, we will talk about how the decision to have a child came about, and I know you must have questions. You can give us a call at 481-1313. We will be back in just a minute. This is People Are Talking, if you're just joining us. We are talking with three people who live together in harmony. They are two gay men, a lesbian woman, and they are also the parents of a 5-year-old daughter, and we are going to find out how this child came about. Who knew first they wanted to be a parent? I think it was you.
Nope.
You.
Me.
Oh, all right.
We were in the park, Jeff and I walking, Golden Gate Park, the children's park, and there was a man on the playground, and he had his kids, and it looked good. And we started thinking, oh, wouldn't that be nice if...
How did you even say it to each other? Obviously, the two of you cannot make a baby, so what do you say in that kind of situation? Let's go.
We'd love to have a child. We would love to have a child, and we're best friends with a woman who is just, intimate family friend. that possibility's there.
And I think they'd also had more exposure to children. They had a sense, even before that particular incident, they may have crystallized it for them, but they had a sense that they wanted to be parents. They both helped either raise younger brothers or sisters or other people's kids.
Did they have to convince you? Was this a proposal made to you? Joy, we have this great idea. Let's sit down after dinner?
Sort of. I mean, they remembered a little different than I do. It was one of those late-night coffee clutches, you know, where you're sitting around at 3 a.m. discussing, you know, the mysteries of life, that it really kind of crystallized. When they put it out to me, I thought, well, that's an interesting concept, but I don't think I took it seriously at that point. It took a while for it to sink in, and then I thought, oh, goodness.
You see, what we were planning on doing was talking about having a family, agreeing on it, and then setting up our household and our finances, and down along the line, like 6 months, a year, then start to work on it. But you see, at the same time, we were also developing our new relationships, my relationship with Jeff and our relationship with Joy. So all of these things sort of culminated at the same time.
So how long was it from the time in the park until you said, all right, we are going to have a child, we're going to try to have a child together?
A few weeks, maybe. And then it wasn't very long after that. I mean, you know, essentially the way I look at it, I thought, my experience has been that when you try and have a baby, when you're trying to conceive, it takes forever. It's only when you're not trying. Well, so I figured we have to practice for a while. While we were practicing, I conceived. I mean, I was really astonished. I conceived immediately.
It is difficult for me to imagine how you decide fairly, not academically, but clinically in a way that, all right, fine, you're going to have a child, you have these two men. Do you say, let's flip a coin and we decide who's going to try it first? I mean, I cannot even begin to imagine how you do that.
No, I think that was part of the overall bond of intimacy and friendship. We didn't flip any coins, we simply did.
Had you slept with either of them before?
No, not prior to that.
How did you get to that first time? I mean,
It just kind of happened naturally, like it does in any relationship.
We were watching Romeo and Juliet one night.
all right,
That's what happened.
I believe that.
That's what happened, you know. Romeo and Juliet led to
You'd never mentioned that.
Veronica.
Did either of you feel any jealousy, any invasion of your relationship while Joy was trying to conceive?
Oh, why she was trying to conceive? No.
No, because at that point it was very much a three-way relationship. It didn't develop into being
what it is now.
Us two romantically involved and Joy not so much. The first year it was a three-way relationship.
We were all bonding together to establish our family ties.
Joy is now pregnant. Did you have a clue as to who the father was? Or was there any intention to make one or the other of your father?
No, we didn't have a clue and we didn't want a clue.
Do you know now, just out of curiosity?
And what's amazing, since that bonding process was so strong, she looks exactly like, all three of us.
Much.
What was the pregnancy like? What were your friends saying? Nobody is ever prepared.
Nobody warned me about the emotional changes and nobody, definitely, they didn't warn them, but that I was going to go through some radical changes. I'd gone from being a very independent person to being, well, much more dependent because of, you know, it's just a psychological state the pregnancy seems to bring on. I never believed it until then. And there wasn't any support at that time from the lesbian community.
I was just going to say, I would guess that a pregnant lesbian is not a real popular person.
Well, not necessarily popular. You become invisible. What it taught me is that people automatically assume you're heterosexual. Straight people, gay people, they automatically make that assumption when they see you walking down the street with, you know, like a baby on board T-shirt. You know, and until one day I walked into a cafe that was primarily lesbian, and a woman walked up to me, looked me up and down, and said, "You know, this place is for lesbians. Like, they're there, dear. You know, you
better get out of here while you can.
Yeah, you better get out of here before you get, you know, if things get awkward." And I said, "Yes, I know." And she just sort of looked at me, and it suddenly dawned on me that she made this same assumption that most of the world would be making.
And how about for you in the gay male community? You have formed, in some strange sense, almost a typical American pattern in that you were becoming fathers, not typical for gay men.
The reaction was kind of both ways. Some people were very intrigued by it, and other people felt that we were betraying our gayness, in a sense, by being co-opted into having a heterosexually formed child because
Did
we had
that push
sex
you
with a woman.
closer together, the
Yes,
three of
very
us?
much.
The three
Because
of
we felt like the rest of the world doesn't have a scenario for this. We're alone in this. We don't know anybody we can say, how did you do it?
What about the medical community? I mean, did you have trouble finding a doctor who was supportive? Did you need a doctor
We
to
had
be supportive?
we were birthed Veronica at home, and we had a midwife. We were fortunate; we found a very supportive midwife, and a very supportive birthing class, and also a very supportive pediatrician who actually was there at the birth to check the baby over, and so it went very smoothly. That too was a joint effort.
Now, it has gone one way or the other for the last 5 years. You have been parents, and there are problems that we all have in common as parents. How has it been to raise a little girl in what is, by any stretch of the imagination, an unusual situation?
Oh, I think it's very similar to how it is for any family. I mean, with three people, I think the biggest thing is any parent knows kids play one off against the other, so we have to constantly be on our guard against that. But she doesn't have, she doesn't have a confusion. She gets a tremendous amount of love. And in my book, that is the key, most important thing to raising a happy, secure child, is to raise a child that knows she's loved and knows she's wanted. I think it's criminal that people could
We do
possibly bring
things
children into the world that
fairly.
they don't want.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do things fairly normally. I mean, it's odd that there's three of us, but otherwise, she watches She-Ra. I mean, we will sit down and watch the Golden Girls, in the evening, and have the Disney Channel.
But she has one person to call Mama.
Yeah.
She has two people to call.
Papa and Daddy.
All right, and she is not confused. She's 5 years old. She's talking. Has she not yet come home from, did she go to daycare?
Oh, she goes to
Play school,
yeah.
preschool, and say, not everybody has two daddies. Has that come up?
She said to us once, do papas die a lot? Because she realized that her friends don't have a daddy and a papa.
Oh, all right. So she thought maybe they were missing one.
She thought that most
They
kids
have
came from a
broken
broken
homes.
home, because only
That
most
was her
kids only
first
have
concept of it. But
Right.
other than that, it's kind of, as she gets older and gets more understanding, we explain more to her. But we explain as much as she can handle at 5. At 5, she's not overly intellectual.
How do you discipline? I mean, I would think it could be, it's confusing enough for most children if they have one parent
He's
who's
the
trying to make them do
disciplinarian now.
something.
That's what it was shaken down to him being the.
We have a schedule where we have, like, the primary responsibility for the child alternates day to day. So when she says, can I do this, instead of having to worry about playing off 3 people, we say, Papa is parenting tonight, so Papa has the last word. You go ask Papa. But it's also kind of gravitated towards, I have become the disciplinarian just because it more suits my personality. And she, something about, she accepts it. She can listen to me. I can be sterner in a way that she listens to. So it's just kind of gravitated to me.
She jumps when he says do it.
Well, it's nice, I suppose, to have somebody in the family that gets that.
Oh, I
kind
know,
of response.
because she has both Bert and I twisted around her little finger in a
Oh,
lot
I
of ways.
torture myself whenever I have to spank her. It's just
When we come back, we are going to take some of your calls. I know that you probably are there waiting. We'll begin by doing that in just a minute on People Are Talking.
On Monday, the redhead trend with hairstylist Louis Licari.
Our first dialing call of this hour, the amount, $386, the count, 5 from the top. $386, 5 from the top, right in a crease, 1752. All right, 8, hi. I assume that that's a 5 in that crease. $386, 5 from the top. Next Friday, July 18th, on People Are Talking, we're going to be talking about toys, not toys that are ordinary. Hello, is this 859-1752? This is Linda Harris from Channel 13's People Are Talking. We would love to give away some money this morning. Do you have a clue as to the Counting Mountain or Dialing for Dollars jackpot? Oh, well, I wish that you did. Sorry that you don't. Well, watch us, and who knows, we may call you again. All right, nice to talk to you. Bye-bye. It is now 5 from the top, $399. 5 from the top, $399. We are going to meet a man who says that many of the toys that your children play with are associated with the devil. He says that Smurfs promote homosexuality, that Mattel toys promote the devil, and that Cabbage Patch dolls are a negative influence. Get those Cabbage Patch dolls. If you are interested in meeting this man, he really seems to have a lot to say about toys, and we are going to have a comment from some toy makers. Give us a call at 481-3000, 481-3000 to find out about that. We look forward to hearing from you. Come join us, and of course we will have donuts for you from the Dunkin' Donuts shop on Wise Avenue. That's next Friday. All right, we are going to take some of your calls. Let's try line 1. All right, there you go. Good morning. This is People Are Talking. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I do. I'd like to know how the child's friends feel about her being in school, and whether they ridicule her or anything like that.
All right. Absolutely not. 5-year-olds are very unconcerned. Most children are extremely unconcerned with parents' sexuality, especially at the age of 5. I mean, you know, I don't know a 5-year-old in the country who goes to school and discusses their parents' sex life with other kids.
No, but I have a cousin who is 8 years old, and he goes to school and really gives the whole lineup with the family, you know. So that's why I was wondering how the kids in school react to him.
The kids that come over have a very good time when they come over. They're not bothered by anything at all, and they know that there's two men, that she has a daddy and a papa. It doesn't bother them yet.
But clearly, I would think that one of the issues that certainly must be coming up along about now, when people say there are two men there, that one of the issues is that they are two gay men, and that people now, of course, are worried about AIDS, and they say, should we let our child go over there and catch something?
I think basically that's an absurdity, and most people, you have to realize we live in San Francisco, and most people are well educated. They recognize that AIDS is not a casually transmitted disease, and that AIDS is not transmitted by any means that is common between an adult and a child. I think, you know, that eliminates it first off. I can't stress that strongly enough.
So you feel you're dealing with people who have a level of sophistication that allows them not
and
to be
we've very carefully, you know, chosen a preschool environment that supports it. It's biracial, it's bilingual, it's, you know,
not bisexual, but
well, with you there,
yeah,
it
is. But, you know, in fact, someone once asked, well, are all the parents in that school gay? And I said, no, as far as I know, we're the only ones. I mean, there may be others, but they're not as vocal as we are.
All right, let's take one more call, then we'll go out and see what our audience has to say. Good morning. This is People Are Talking. Do you have a question?
Oh, yes. My name is David. I'm wondering who is registered as the legal father of the girl, and what are the long-term plans as far as who's going to remain the father or the mother? And did your guest have a contract before the birth of the child?
Good questions. Yes. No, and we should have. I do counseling with people who are considering having children, and probably the first thing I tell them is get a contract, go to a lawyer. However, we broke a lot of ground here, and we're not very sophisticated about this, so we don't have a contract. We should. In terms of who the father is, we deliberately do not say. We don't know who the biological father is. We want it that way.
All right, we let that caller go. We do have people in our audience who have a lot of questions, and I'd like to ask someone who is familiar, I think, to all of you from Square Off. Peter Waldron, you want to hop up here? Now, I know, hop on the side of me, Peter, so they can really get a good look at you. Now, I know you have some opinions.
Let me preface what I'm about to say by saying that I understand that Sodom on the Bay is a different circumstance, a different situation than much of the nation. But let me preface that by saying this. Number one, your relationship mocks the law of God. The law of God serves as the foundation for every successful society. When in fact a relationship violates those laws, we make our entire nation vulnerable to corruption from within as well as from without. Number two, recently the Supreme Court ruled that acts of sodomy are in fact not permitted or not protected under our Constitution. Therefore, the three of you are involved in a criminal act, which in fact to raise a child in an environment which engages in criminal activity is in fact an affront to parenting.
Okay, let me stop you right there. I think you've made your point. Before you respond to the first part of what Peter said, how do you respond to the fact that the Supreme Court has, in a sense, ruled against your lifestyle?
By feeling that I believe the Supreme Court's decision is unconstitutional, that it presumes to judge private behavior, which I believe is against the First Amendment. I have very strong feelings about that. Two, the Supreme Court did not make a carte blanche ruling on sodomy itself. It upheld a specific state's law, which is not applicable to us living in California.
All right, now that takes care of the legal side, but this is a very angry man who stands here who I know believes what he says, and I do feel he represents more than the people who are here and many people who watch. How do you respond to that?
I respond by saying that the Lord Jesus Christ told us to love one another, and that is the primary law by which I live. And I will stand on that and not debate theology with a theologian.
Let me just respond, if I may, to the fact what Jesus said about loving, as it were, one another. The word love does not mean that we embrace another person's sin or violation of his law. Love tells me that I am to separate you from your sin, and I would encourage you to discontinue that activity. But the third point I would like to surface is that we recognize in the city of San Francisco a great number, in fact close to 90% of the male homosexuals are in fact carrying the AIDS antibody.
That's inaccurate.
Are we in fact, either one of the two of you gentlemen, in a place where you're jeopardizing the opportunity for your daughter to be raised in an environment where one of you are going to die because of your behavior?
The odds of somebody dying in a car accident are extremely high.
Are either one of these men carrying the AIDS antibody?
Wait, all right, fine, let them answer.
By living in a world today, by living in a world where the government supports war and nuclear arms as opposed to food for children and support for pregnant women, we are living in a world where children may live without parents.
The question is, are either one of you carrying the AIDS antibody?
Neither one of us knows, and the antibody test has nothing medically to do with the idea.
Are you at all
getting
concerned
AIDS
about the risk
transmitting
involved?
AIDS?
No, because as I said earlier, AIDS is not transmitted by the kind of contact that a parent and child have.
Hold on a minute, Peter. Can you honestly say, I mean, I think that so many people who are heterosexual worry about the possibility of somehow getting AIDS. It seems really difficult for me to believe that just having existed in the gay community, how does anyone not worry about getting AIDS?
We worry
about
very much.
individuals,
It's very
yes.
scary to think you might lose your life for something that happened years ago. But all we can do now is take every precaution we can and stay absolutely safe and hope for the best. Trust.
Your cavalier approach to AIDS is disarming for
have a
myself,
cavalier approach
because
at
we
all.
recognize from government studies being produced that the homosexual community is aggressively pursuing education to discontinue as much of that behavior as possible.
Yeah.
And you're saying they're saying no problem. There's a problem
No,
with
I
AIDS in
never
San
said that.
Francisco.
I don't think anybody's saying no
I
problem.
didn't say there was no problem. I'm very concerned, and I'm also educated about it. I live in San Francisco where the facts are there. The fact is there has never been a case of a child getting AIDS from a parent other than in utero from a mother with AIDS, or through mother's milk from a mother with AIDS, or through a blood transfusion in a hospital. Those are the only cases of children getting AIDS, and this is 2-day-old information from the CDC.
Well, just
Okay, one more comment.
One
Ricky, then we're gonna go to a
illustration,
break.
in the state of Pennsylvania, was there not a man with AIDS who gave AIDS to his wife, who in fact birthed a child who was carrying the AIDS virus?
I've never heard that.
That's
I don't
correct.
know.
It happened 3 years ago.
That's possible.
1983,
However, all
it did happen.
incidents of children...
But that makes an exception to his exception.
Okay,
No, it doesn't.
that the child did not get it from the father by exposure to the father.
Well, I'm not
Through the
concerned about
mother.
the daughter right now. I'm concerned about the two
Right.
of you.
Okay. The thing you have to be aware of is that I do not believe my daughter is in danger. All the children who have contracted it from their mothers in utero show symptoms right away, not at the age of 5.
On that note, I'm going to ask Peter to sit down. We are going to take a break. We'll be back to continue this discussion. And obviously, while AIDS is one issue, there are certainly many other issues involved in such an unusual family lifestyle. We will be dealing with those when we come back.
On Tuesday, meet a man whose roommate stole his identity and almost ruined his life.
Well, our audience at home and here in the studio certainly has some feeling about this unusual family, and I suspect that you do.
Yes, I do. I'd like to address my question to Joy, being that she seems to be the spokesperson. Joy, do you consider yourself to be a Christian woman?
That's a difficult question because what I believe in Christ. What I've seen of an awful lot of Christians and the hypocrisy, I can't ally myself with that. So I'm ambiguous on answering you yes or no.
Okay, could I ask you this? Would you consider yourself one that would make yourself accountable to the Judeo-Christian scriptures? A person that would make themselves accountable to that?
Probably not, because again, I don't trust man translation. However, I am comfortable with the notion of standing before my Maker.
Then perhaps the answer to the beginning of the question should be that no, you don't consider yourself a Christian. If I may, I'd like to share with you, and I'd like to use a crib sheet if I may, because I don't even want to quote it correctly. There's two particular scriptures I'd like for you to think about and deal with. In the Judeo part of the scriptures.
Tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. Do one of them.
Okay,
you have your choice.
Right, in Leviticus. Well,
you don't even
okay,
have to.
All right, okay, then I better do the Christian. 1 Corinthians 6:9 says, "Do not you know that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers shall inherit the kingdom of heaven." And I would like to propose to you that come the time that you have to stand before the person whom you confess as being Jesus Christ, when that scripture comes before you, you're going to have an awful tough time dealing with that when you have to reconcile yourself to the kingdom of God.
I just remember that Jesus Christ said, "Whosoever believeth in me shall not perish, but have everlasting life." And that's my bottom line.
All right, on that note, I'm going to back up a little bit. Excuse me, watch your foot. I heard someone back here say when you hesitated on whether or not you were a Christian, just say yes or no. Was that you?
That's right. That's either say yes or no.
It depends what you mean by Christian. That's where I was trying to get a sense of his definition, because I've seen there's probably as many definitions as there are Christian sects and various religions. So that's, within certain terms, yes, I am. Within other terms, no. Within myself, I am a believer in Christ.
Okay. How are you teaching your child about God? You said love. God says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandment. He spoke to Adam and Eve in the garden and said, be fruitful and multiply. He didn't speak to two homosexuals or two lesbians because they cannot produce another child. You're using your beliefs and say, because God is love, he's going to overlook my sin. No, he said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And my commandments is this, that a man shall not lie with another man, and neither shall a woman lie with another woman.
No, men said that.
God said that.
Oh,
well, okay, and we could debate that issue endlessly.
I think we could spend this whole show arguing theology. I think there's a lot more
true.
issues that we need to get to.
All right, one quick comment from you, sir, and then I'm going to go back up.
Okay, the question I had, you mentioned earlier that your mother was very supportive to you.
She was accepting, I think.
But I didn't hear anything how your father responded and also with the two gentlemen. How did your families? Being from Illinois, that's a rather conservative area.
When Bert's parents came out for Christmas, Bert's father took me in his arms and said, "I'm glad I have a third son now." That's the acceptance we get.
My father accepts. I mean, we're not very close, but he's quite accepting.
My mother and my family and Jeff's family communicate with each other. They share a grandchild, and they're grateful and thankful for that, and they love us all for that, and that's that.
All right, let's take some calls. Good morning, this is People Are Talking. You have a comment, a question?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Turn your television set down if you're still hearing us.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I would like to say I am a married woman with a daughter. And I would like to tell the guests, I would like to say hello at first. And I would like to say, I understand very clearly what they are going through. It is not one person's right to judge them. Okay, they are giving their daughter love, and they are loving each other through friendship. No one in the audience, no one in the world will have to stand before God on Judgment Day. It is their sin. They know what they are going through. I'd just like to say, for the people out there in the world who disagree with them and judge against them, I would like to tell them that there's some people out here who understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Let's take another call. Hello, this is People Are Talking. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to thank the guest for living in California.
What does that mean? Okay. You want to explain that?
Well, I'd like to know when they're bringing the child up, if they're going to bring it up into a straight world, or if they're going to teach it that being gay is right, or what their ideas are in that area.
Okay, let's. Before you answer that question, I want to mention that Joy Schulenberg is the author of a book called Gay Parenting. It is described as a complete guide for gay men and lesbians with children, and I think that does make her qualified because of her research to answer that question first. But then I would like to hear from the men, because I must tell you that I am disturbed by the fact that you are the spokesperson in this group and we hear less from the two men. I have to tell you, that is a problem for me. But go ahead, Joy, you wrote the book. How do you respond to this?
I think that I need a better clarification of what he was asking. I didn't get a strong sense of question.
He's concerned about whether you will bring your daughter up in a gay or a straight world.
Oh, I don't think you can bring a child up in an exclusively gay world, because there aren't enough children. There's an increasing number of children, and she does have peers whose parents are gay. But predominantly, society and the society of children is, well, there's not much sexuality involved, period. I mean, there may be other gay parents that we don't know about that she associates with. Primarily, she's getting exposed to what any other child get exposed to, plus she is seeing an example that some homosexuals can have a very positive relationship and can be supportive and loving to a child.
Quickly from each of you, and then we're going to stop for a minute. Would you prefer, in the world that you would design yourself, for her to be gay or straight?
I just want her to be happy.
That's the same with me. It's not my decision. It's hers.
I want her to be happy, and I want grandchildren.
All right, well, I think that certainly says something about what you hope for. We will be back in just a minute to continue our discussion.
On Wednesday, find out all about past life therapy as we take some viewers back to their previous lives.
Our second call of this hour, $399. That is the amount. The count is 5 from the top. The last 4 digits, 4735. 4735. Don't forget, next Friday, July the 18th on People Are Talking, you can meet a man who says that the Smurfs promote homosexuality, Mattel toys promote the devil, and that the Cabbage Patch dolls are also pretty suspect. He thinks they are a negative influence. That is next Friday, July the 18th on People Are Talking. I suspect many of you have at least one of those toys in your children's closet, so you might want to come down and find out what this gentleman has to say about that. Not sure anybody is at home at 356-4735. 356-4735. I'll let it ring a couple more times. Don't forget, on Monday, you are going to see in our very own studio perhaps a brunette, maybe a blonde, maybe someone with black hair become a red-hot redhead. Louis Licari will be here, and he's going to do that for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 top, the new amount is $412. 5 top, $412. There will be another call in this hour. Don't forget it, so jot it down. Also, on that same hour on Monday with Louis Licari, we have an interview with Tom Hanks. He's the hot new star of the current movie Nothing in Common with Jackie Gleason. We talked to him last week in Washington. I think you will enjoy that. So if you're interested in the show for next Friday, July 18th on People Are Talking, give us a call at 481-3000 and find out how the toys in your child's closet may be dangerous in an emotional sense. And now we have this word from Lexington Market.
Hello, my name is Pamela Carrington. The Lexington Market invites you to the 1986 Ice Cream Festival on Friday and Saturday, July 11th and 12th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. There will be lots of ice cream, eating and dancing contests, prizes, and much more. Come and receive a free sample from your favorite ice cream vendor. It's free and open to the public. Proceeds from our 25-foot ice cream Sunday bill will benefit the Ronald McDonald House. For further information, call 685-6169.
Let's take another phone call. Good morning. This is People Are Talking. Your question or comment?
Yeah, Linda?
Yes, hello. I can hear you.
I'd like to say hello to Joy and Jeff and Bert and congratulate them myself. I just found out that I was pregnant. I am a lesbian.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Was this a deliberate
That's
pregnancy?
great.
Yes. Well, no, but I'm glad for it. I wanted a child. So it was, but I didn't think of exactly now.
I could relate to that real well. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I said they were saying they could relate to that, and of course I think a lot of heterosexual parents are. We do not always plan our children. What is your living situation?
Well, I'm a single woman. I live with a straight man. We're roommates. It's not his child, but it's very good. What I wanted to comment about was what Joy had said about bringing up a child. I would like a daughter, and what I want to raise my baby to be a free spirit. And just because I'm gay, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It's just different, and it's not wrong to me. I have a lot of straight friends and a lot of gay friends.
Let me ask you a question. On behalf of the people in our audience that I can't quickly get back to, who would probably say to you, you are wrong, you are flying in the face of religious scripture, you are doomed, you are bringing this child into a world that is not going to be cordial to it. How do you respond to that, that you are cavalier with someone else's life?
Well, I feel this way. When I first learned that I was gay, I was 18 or 19. And I had battled religion my life. I didn't know what I believed in. When I think about being gay, I think of all the turmoil I went through as a young child, being attracted to girls, that I thought, well, something's wrong with me. And now that I have come out, and I am active in the gay community, and I consider a stable adult, that I feel, why am I happy now if that's not what God wanted?
All right, I thank you for your comment, and good luck with your pregnancy. I think you wish anyone who's carrying a child good luck, no matter what the circumstances are, and good health. How do you feel about the fact that this child is not going to grow up in a supportive society? And I suspect that the supportive society that you enjoyed as young gay adults is not going to exist.
I would think that I can't say I grew up in a supportive society. I grew up with a supportive peer group of 6 or 7 people. Society as a whole told me I was wrong since I was 12 years old. There was something wrong about the way I was. I learned how to live and find my own fulfillment to my heart and my conscience anyway, despite what anybody said I should do. And I hope my child has the same strength to do that. I hope anybody has the strength to find their own heart, despite what anyone else tells them.
Bert, I was teasing you during one of the breaks as being clearly the most maternal person here, because you are the one who already wants grandchildren, and you're looking forward to more children. As a parent, and perhaps as the one who is the most emotional nurturer, what are your worries for this daughter? What do you worry about for her?
The way she's going to have to deal with peer pressure. When I was growing up, before I knew anything about gayness, I was an oddball, and I always had the peer pressure. What I was taught to do, love, be honest, all of those things, it turned out that you really can't do it the way I had interpreted it. And that's what I worry about, is peer pressure. Even if we were heterosexual, it's just the peer pressure, keeping up with the Joneses. You have to do something because a group of people says that you have to do it that way.
I think Bert had the hardest time with peer pressure, period. And I think we worry about those things that are, that we had trouble with growing up. I researched and I interviewed over 500 lesbian gay parenting families throughout the country in the course of writing this book, and I found out that the kids are turning out great. They really are. If anything, a lot of the kids who are old enough now to know have said that they felt that having a gay parent helped them really be good judges of people for themselves instead of for what they were told, instead of surface values. It helped them develop a sense of value on the basis of integrity and honesty and loyalty. And some kids said, yes, they did go through, hassles in adolescence, but some of them said it really did help them. And the other thing I think that's real important for people to realize is that these kids have no greater chance of growing up gay themselves than any other member of the population does. I mean, most gay people had heterosexual parents.
Well, yeah,
without Smurfs.
Without Smurfs, I know. We'll find out about the Smurfs. In any interview of a family in this period, I think one of the questions I would ask, first of all, are you planning more children?
We'd like to. Again, with the AIDS situation, we are waiting.
And we will wait
5 years.
We'll wait until we know safely that we're not going to endanger the life of a child.
All right, so that there is that consideration. The other thing is, what happens if you break up? People fall in love, they fall out of love. Who gets the child?
We all do.
No,
that's
you can't all get the child.
I think we would work out a joint custody arrangement. Her welfare comes first. And we are very clear on that.
She's the nucleus of us being a family. So she's our pride and our joy.
And you will build whatever you
Yes.
have to around her. You do not have a relationship at the moment.
Fortunately, no.
What happens if a woman comes in? I mean, you are like someone with you have a lot of baggage.
We tried
lady.
that. I know. Well, the thing is
You
that
have a lot of stuff.
I am so busy. I keep saying it would take an incredible person. It would take somebody who is busy and involved with something themselves. I had a relationship with a woman for about 9 months last year. She lived with us. Her daughter lived with us. It didn't work out.
How confusing is that for Veronica to see a woman comes in, she goes out?
We are still very close. We broke up amicably. Her and the daughter are still like best friends, and the woman's now involved with a man and is having a happy heterosexual marriage. So she really loves Lynn.
Well, we have been challenged by you this morning, needless to say, inspired a lot of conversation. The book, once again, if it's something you would be interested in, is called Gay Parenting by Joy Schulenberg. Would like to thank Joy, Jeff Worcester, and Bert Laumont for being with us this morning. We will be back in just a minute.
On Thursday, Dr. Pennywise Budoff answers all your female health questions.